there is this scenario, which I'm sure you've heard of before, where this man, he'll walk up to another man. Right. What he asks is, you had to make $1 million in a year. Could you do it? Right. And then, he'll say, like, maybe get some soft answers. He might be able to figure it out, if he gets lucky. But probably, he wouldn't be able to do it, right? If you had to make $1 million in a year, give or take, it probably wouldn't happen. So then the man changes the question. What if you now had to make that $1 million, but this time if you don't do it, that means your family dies, or they go to prison, or they get sold off to some random gang in the Philippines. I don't know why I said Philippines, right? But something terrible happens to your family if you don't make that amount of money. Now all of a sudden, you'd be far more likely to succeed, right? You'd be a lot more motivated. You'd be a lot more efficient, right? When when your alarm went off at 6, you wouldn't know, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I'm just gonna lay back down. I'll just hit snooze and keep on sleeping. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd get up and you'd get the work done. But what exactly changed between those two situations? It wasn't the goal. The goal stayed the same. What changed was the stakes. What changed is that you had an anchor. You had something holding you to the goal. You had something keeping you in place, keeping you locked in, keeping you focused when things got tough, right? And understand that the reason you can't focus is you always find yourself scrolling or procrastinating or watching YouTube, wasting time when you should be locked in on your goals, is because you don't have an anchor. Having an anchor is very important. Because as we've identified, when there's nothing holding you firm to the path, there's nothing keeping you on a straight and narrow, because things are going to get difficult. It's just the nature of the world. Things get hard, things get a little messy, things get chaotic, and when you don't have an anchor, something rooting you in place, something keeping you there, well, you're just going to end up straying the path. When you have work to do, you're going to pick up your phone, you're going to start scrolling, and next thing you know, you look up, 5 hours have gone by. Your alarm's going to go off. You're not going to get up because, what's the point, right? There's I don't have to do this thing. I could very well keep doing exactly what I've been doing for the entirety of my life. I don't have a reason to change. It's not something I'm required to do. So why would I get up even when it's hard? Why would I keep going when I hit that wall that I can't break through? What's the point, right? Because without that anchor, right, things aren't going to go. Even physically, if you think about a ship, right, when the wind starts blowing, when the sea gets rough, right, as long as that anchor is planted within the seafloor, well, that ship isn't going anywhere. When you have that anchor, no matter what happens to you, you're going to stay focused. You're going to stay consistent. You're going to keep getting things done because there's something genuinely rooting you to the cause. But how exactly does one create an anchor? Well, anchors are actually in two parts, right? And it's only when you have both of them that you're able to actually get things done. And first is pretty obvious. It's the goal, right? It's the figurative $1 million. Right? This is what you're trying to achieve. It's the thing that you're working towards. It's the vision, right? So that goal could be anything. Maybe you're trying to, ace your classes this year. Maybe you're trying to make some money on the internet. Maybe you're trying to get an aesthetic physique, right? Whatever that goal is, well, it needs to be something specific and tangible. Specific and tangible. What do I mean when I say that, right? So your goal has to be something that you can specify. It has to be a simple goal where you can ask yourself, did I do this or did I not do? Like, was it accomplished? You need to be able to give a very firm yes or a very firm no. That's what I mean when I say specific. So instead of saying, I want to get fit, or I want to, become academic or become smart, say something specific. I want to get straight A's. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to gain 10 pounds of lean muscle, right? I want to, make $5,000, $10,000 a month, right? It needs to be something where if you ask yourself, have I achieved this thing? It's either a yes or a no. There's no room for debate. There's no like, oh, by that standard, I could say it. Or maybe, if you do that, maybe I would. No, it has to be something tangible. Because the way our minds work is when something is tangible like that, when it's a yes or no, right? You're able to map out the steps you could take to get there, right? Let's say, okay, am I making straight A's? And your answer is no. Well, now you're going to be able to like practically map out the steps, practically plan out the things that you need to do in order to make that a yes. But let's say, oh, your goal is I want to get smart. What exactly is smart, right? Well, what is your definition of the word smart? Is smart for you, being able to answer any question? Well, now you gotta, what does that look like, right? Maybe smart for you is, having an IQ. Maybe smart is that people perceive you as someone intelligent, right? But again, right? Because now it's not fully identified, so it could be anything. So you're going to, and since it is anything, you're not going to do anything because there's again, it's not specific. There's nothing holding you to it, right? It's not something you can say, okay, I've done this or have I not done this? Because you're going to get overwhelmed by all the options, all the different things that can end up happening. You're just not going to do anything. You're going to pick up your phone and you're going to start scrolling. And you can say goodbye to the rest of the day, your week, your month, year. Because again, it's not specific and it's not tangible, right? It's not something that you can see. It's not something that you can physically prove that happened or did not happen. So it's not going to work, right? So it needs to be something specific. Okay, I want to make, $5,000 by the end of the month. I want to make straight A's this semester. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to lose 20 pounds, right? Something you can literally just click a checkbox. Did I do it or did I not do it? Now, this is only 50%, right? Because if you think about it, you ask anybody on the planet, they're going to have a goal, right? They're going to have something that they want, something that they want to achieve, something that they're trying to accomplish, right? Everybody has one of these. But also, if you ask those same people, how many of them have accomplished it? How many of them have made genuine progress towards achieving that thing? Well, now that percentage changes from 100 to like maybe 0.1, 0.2. Because, again, goals are pretty common. What's uncommon is what happens on this other side. And if we go back to the example of, the man in $1 million, it was the fact that his family was going to die. They're going to get locked up. Something bad happens if he doesn't accomplish that, right? So over here we have the vision or the goal. And on the other side, it's a concept I've talked about before. It's the anti-vision. Now, this is going in the opposite direction. It's the negative. For that man in $1 million, the anti-vision is this terrible thing that happens to his family, right? It's something that he wants to avoid. Thus, it's that extra push, right? It's that 100% effort that you're able to give because now there's not only something that you're trying to accomplish, but there's something that you fear taking place, right? And even, I can give another example. There was a study with these rats, right? Where, the scientists, right, they starve these rats for like a week or something like that. And what ends up happening is that they put them in a cage, they tie a rope to them so they can measure how hard they're pulling, and they put cheese in front of them. So obviously these rats are hungry, they're going after the cheese. Oh my goodness, it's cheese, I haven't eaten it so long, I'm ready to eat, let's go, right? So the rats, they move a certain amount, right? They give a certain amount of force. And then they do another study, right? They, take some more rats, same conditions. But this time they have the cheese in front of them. But now there's a cat behind them, right? So now they're not only running towards the goal of the cheese, but now they're running from that fear of being eaten by this cat. So what do you know? They pull like 50, 100% harder. It's because rats had the goal of the cheese plus the anti-vision of not wanting to be eaten, right? And when you combine the two, now you're not one of those, 99% of people who has a goal but never makes progress, right? Because you got the complete equation, right? Having the goal, having the vision is only half of the equation. And, the problem with that is you can have half the equation, but you're not going to get any of the result, because you're not going to be consistent, right? Only everybody has a goal, but everybody is also scrolling on their phone like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, right? It's because they don't have that anti-vision. So how do you do that? What is the practicality of this? Because right now it's just a concept, right? There needs to be something you can do in order to achieve that, and there is. It's a very simple question you can ask yourself. This is the version of yourself that you're trying to avoid, the person that you do not want to become. So very simple. Who don't? Right? What is the person that you don't want to become? What type of things do they do? What type of life do they live? Right? It's a very simple question, but it's very profound as well. It's because through really identifying, really specifying who that person is, that becomes almost a vision in and of itself. Now you have the vision. Now you have that negative version, right? You have that shadow, that thing that you're desperately trying to avoid. My notifications. Yes, but anyway, right? You have that reality that you're trying to step away from, right? And that's something that you're afraid of, right? Becoming that negative version of yourself, that version that never accomplishes anything, that never amounts to anything, that never achieves anything, that version of you that people thought had so much potential but just wasted it all. That version of you who lazes around, scrolls all day, overweight, nothing going for them, right? A terrible condition, right? A reality aversion where you just, you couldn't see yourself, you would just hate to see yourself in, right? Makes no progress, has no motivation, has no goals, lost it all, right? Who don't you want to be, Or another question is, what don't? What don't I want to do, or how don't? How don't I want to live? Like, there's a multitude of questions you could ask yourself, right? Having the vision, but then having the anti-vision, knowing what you want to be and who you don't want to be. It's very simple, but it's also very powerful because now you have that other 50%. Right? Having just one is not going to get you very far. You can have half the equation, but get 0% of the goal. You need to have both, right? Because these combined is what I like to call success. It's what I like to call focus, right? Having your anchor, right? The combination of the vision. We're going to change this to vision, right? Having your anchor, which is the combo of vision and anti-vision. Is by far the most powerful thing that you can implement that is going to have the most profound, the most long-lasting effect on your life, right? Because when you have both, when things get tough, right? When you get hard, when you get stressed, when you hit that wall that you just can't push through, you have that urge to scroll, to just, okay, I'll just take a break. I'll pick up my phone. Oh, that new Netflix show, my favorite anime just dropped a new episode. Oh, that YouTube documentary that I saved to my watch later that's like 4 hours long, right? All those urges, you're simply going to say no because the second that you pick that thing up, that's who you become. But the second you say no, the second you avoid it, the second you fight and push through so that you can make genuine progress, you take a step towards this. You take a step towards your vision that you want to become. Maybe it's a push-pull factor, right? There's I took a high school class, AP Human Geography, right? When people migrate from, country to country, right? When they make that transition, there's a push factor and there's a pull factor. There's something pushing them away from their current place of living, whether it be crime rates or politics or whatever the case may be, right? There's something that they're trying to avoid. And then, there's something that they're trying to achieve, whether it be better jobs, better economy, better standard of living, right? Whatever the case is, right? There's something that they fear. There's something that they don't want for them or for their family. And there's something that they want for them and for their family, right? When you combine the two, that's why they're able to make such a big decision of literally changing residences from one country to another, right? It's the same, but on a bit smaller scale. Right now, there's something that you fear, something that you're trying to avoid, but something that you're trying to go to, right? That push-pull. And obviously, when you have both, thinking logically, right? You're going to be far more likely to keep going because now, rather than, trying to force yourself, right? Trying to, I got to drag myself to this goal. You're actually being pushed as well, right? You don't have to do as much. You don't have to rely on motivation or, inspiration, manifestation. No, you just get the work done, right? Because it's just what you do. It's becomes your natural state. Because again, there's something that you would hate to happen and there's something that you would love to happen, right? So hopefully you found some value in this video. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you realize that the path to true focus, to true locking in, as they say, it's not as difficult as you may have thought. Now, I go more in depth on both of these concepts in my community, the Focus OS, where I go over the exact frameworks and tactics that I use in order to supercharge my focus, right? Cut out the dopamine, cut my screen time down by 50%, and make genuine progress towards achieving my goals. So if you're interested, again, first link in the description. And if you want to learn something new, click this video here. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.